So on this video, we're going to put together all the body parts and align them, kind of go over just a little bit how to get a decent fitting car. We got the 71 Barracuda in here, and we got the whole front end done. I'll show you right now if you walk over here. Normally a lot of people like to align the doors to the rear quarters and you work your way forward. Normally that would happen. However, we're cutting the whole back end pretty much off this car because everything's rusted. And looking at this car, you could see right here, the quarter panel, these are replacement quarter panels. You could see it sitting on top of another quarter panel, but you could see the quarter panels weren't even installed right. You see how this lip right here is coming out. There's your bottom rocker and how it dips in. The quarter panel should be in line with that rocker and follow the door line right here. And you can see it's coming out, and then up top, it's all in line. So what I've decided to do was get the body lines as best we can right there, and the bottom corners in line. But we're not worried about the in and out movement because of the installed quarter panels. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to fix those when we go off of it. So in this video, you'll see we did the doors, we did the fender, we did the hood, we did the grille, and the whole front end. We'll take you through that process, and at the end we'll do a quick walk around and show you what we got and maybe in the next steps in this video. So thank you.
So here we are, we're bringing in the passenger side door, just bolting it on. We'll get it close first and then we'll adjust from there. When you bolt it on, the main thing first is just make sure it doesn't hit anything, you don't scratch anything, especially if you have paint on it. But right here we'll go ahead and we'll try to get the line. I usually try to start with the main body lines that you know are not going to move. The top window frame is one that you know is not going to move, and that arc coming down from the quarter panel, and then the center line on this car is a very important line to line up. The bottom door gap, I do want that aligned, and I'm trying to work on that towards the front more than the rear. The rear adjustment is defined by the quarter panel lines and the window channel. The front is going to be more trying to get it off the rocker and get that where I am right now in line. Now, saying that, if your gap on the bottom is too tight, we go through and we might weld up this one. It's borderline. I like a tighter gap from the factory. You could see it on the walk around video later. Exactly what I mean. I usually take a paint stick, and that's usually my reference point. If the paint stick won't fit through it, the gaps are obviously too narrow. But for the most part, I'm trying to get my gaps about as close to that paint stick, there it is, as possible. And I also use the paint stick. It's not as good as wood, but I use that as a marker to make sure the height between the door isn't bowing in or bowing out, and that keeps everything for the most part straight. Everything here is still just the rough measurements. Even this one, the fender, we still had a lot of body work to do on the fender. I'm putting this fender on now, and the reason we did this door, you see in the previous video, we actually fixed the fenders, and I actually mocked them up on the car. So here we are, we're onto the hood assembly. This is a hood I got off eBay. AMD and all that, you weren't getting a shaker hood. Everything's back order with that. So we took the gamble and tried this one. I was real happy with the way it fit. The gaps fit right and everything. You see what I'm adjusting this along with the doors. Don't use the door latches. I'm not using the hood latch here. You don't want to be adjusting something and have the latch pull it left or right. It's easier to get the panel lined up and then put the latch on and make sure everything's straight. And have your latch pull it down straight that's already straight. So just a little piece of advice there. So here I'm installing the front cowl panel. I had to work on the fender and get the arc straight, and it was easier for me to put the cowl panel on, and then you'll see in a minute, bring the driver's side fender back over and bolt it on versus trying to jam that cowl panel in between two fenders that were too tight and just damaging it. I thought this was an easy way to assemble this car. Like I said, the fender right there, just re-putting that on. That was already in line with the hood, so I kind of knew it would fit in place. Both of these fenders still had to be worked on the bottom, and we needed to, you know, do lower patches on them. So this is like the third or fourth time things came apart. We're just making sure everything fits in general. And here we are, we're installing the hood pins. Now that I know everything's about where it's gonna go, I pre-measured these, and then there's a hole through the bottom. I'm kind of just looking up there and drilling right through. I did a pilot hole first, and then I took a reamer bit and then just kept stepping it up till I got the right size I desired. To me, that would seem like the safe play. If your pilot hole's off, you could still correct it. You know, it's easier to weld up a 1/8 inch hole and then step it up versus, you know, drilling a 3/4 inch hole and then try to fix it. So yeah, just simple here, just adjusting the hood pins. There's a little bracket underneath, you'll see in a second, that bolts on these cars. This was a whole kit, sent me a 74, I believe it was Cuda and Challenger, the e-body cars that you can just buy, and you just see it bolts right in. The hood was already kind of had a notch on the bottom for the hood pins. So we're moving on to the other hood pin. Just same thing, adjusting, same thing as the passenger side, just adjusting it. You see they're in, and I'm getting the top height clearance down before I put the chrome plates on the top to just cover up any imperfections. You see I'm just kind of doing another measurement on that, double checking, make sure the plates are going to line up. There is a little more adjustment in these plates. I mean, you still have to center on the pin. And what I like about buying the kit versus just, you know, installing hood pins on other cars is the brackets have a adjustability underneath, so you can go left and right, you know, 1/4 inch give or take, and really get everything centered and looking good. So I will say, if you're interested in hood pins on one of these cars, this kit, it's pretty straightforward, it's easy to do. It's kind of hard to drill holes in a new hood, but once you get over that, the rest of the process is not bad. We're just finishing up by putting steel lanyards in there. I'll show you at the end of the video how I routed them. I didn't really see any directions I was trying to see on the internet, but this looks like the way they would go. And then now we're getting ready. Now the hood pins are done. We're getting ready to put the headlights on and do the grille and the rest of the front end. So here's the headlight buckets and how they bolt in on a 71 Cuda. Nothing real out there, just 8 bolts. There's one in the back and the bucket fits right in. We're doing the lower valance. This is, I think, round 1 of 10 or something, putting the lower valance on. You'll see in a minute the lower valance on this car was too wide, so I had to go through and cut it up, and you'll see with the grille now in a second that we're putting on. Same thing, this grille came on and off this car a bunch of times. It's an aftermarket OER one. It fit all right. I can tell it's worried about kind of damaging it a bunch of times, but it came out all right. You see we had to do a bunch of work on the fenders to fix it. I'll show you in a second. You can kind of see on the passenger side there's a gap right there, and looking, there's the gap we had to fill up. I've seen people leave them. I don't want to leave them on this car, so what I decided to do the best way I thought was to leave the inner fender structure and drill out the outer fender structure brace and kind of push them together. Now the problem that's going to create now is now my valance. You see right here we fixed that, but now the valance is going to be too wide for the area. So there's the fixed up piece, and now we're going to go through and I have to cut the valance, and I took about, I would say, 3/4 of an inch off the top, maybe 7/8 off the bottom of this valance. I mean, it was quite a bit to make that thing fit better. That valance just wanted to push those lower fenders out, making that gap a lot worse. So here we cut it. There's a piece cut out, and then right there's our extra piece that we're gonna now weld to the other one. I decided to TIG weld this on the back. I'm not going to actually grind down the back side, so I'm using 30 thousandths TIG wire, and you see my power settings in the background. I'm on a 16th inch red tungsten, and I think my gas flow is about 10 on a number 6 cup. So just my TIG settings for welding thin sheet metal, and you could see, I mean, it comes out pretty good. This is the back side. It needs a little more, I mean, it's really, there's no reason to clean that up. And the front side right here, this is the penetration 2 side. We'll go ahead and clean that up. And how I'm going to clean that up with just a 36 grit surface prep disc. I'm just going over it, just smoothing it out. It's still going to need a little bit of filler. However, I mean, this is mostly an all metal patch and it looks really good. So I'm happy with how this whole panel came out, and you're going to have to do this when you're test fitting these panels. Nothing I've seen just bolts right up and fits perfect. And we finished this job off with a hammer and dolly just to get it even closer and make sure it's right. And here's a picture of the finished work, the finished product on the car, fitting a lot better. So here we are, we're assembling some more front end parts. Obviously we got our Valance in. The purpose of this is just, you know, we don't want to put on all the trim pieces. We don't need every screw in the thing. I just want to make sure, for the most part, all these parts are fitting before we get to the finishing metal work. Now is the time we got to do major work like we saw on the grille. The passenger side had too much of a gap, and then the driver side, I actually had to cut the fender and push that part in. And saying that, you can't move the grill over because the center of the grill is in the center of the cowl. So these are things that you're going to run into. Nothing just, I mean, things bolt together, but if you want that show car quality, and I've seen cars go for sale that they don't have this done and they're painted, and I don't know, maybe people don't pick them apart, but, and I will never say anything, but, you know, that's the first thing I see is, oh man, you didn't spend that extra, you know, couple hours it took to fix that gap. And once it's in paint in the final bodywork stage, you can't do that. Now's the time to do it. So now we're messing with the bumper brackets, the front bumper brackets. Just like the rest of these parts, I had to customize and cut a 1/2 inch out of the bumper bolts to be able to slide them back a little further. I think with my gaps being so closed up around the doors and everything else being pushed back, the bumpers just, I liked it that tight. And you see right here, when it's all said and done, we got bolted up. We needed that 1/2 inch. It just stuck out too far. It almost looked like those 73 cars you see, you know, with the big high impact bumpers on them, how they stick out so far. To me, that doesn't scream muscle car. So I think getting the bumper hugged up to the grill and everything was the right thing to do. And that about wraps up the front end of the 71 here for the most part. Like I said, we don't care about the trim pieces or anything. We just want the major stuff. And here's some pictures that we'll go through, just the still shots of the car, where we're at. It still needs some gap work and everything, but now we're gonna move on to a different section, and we'll come back and fine tune this once everything else fits.
Alright, so we'll do one quick summary of everything we've done. A lot of this video is trial and error. Just you put stuff on, you move it around, and you just keep playing with it. There's still some things I got to do. We'll go over it, but right now, this is the rough alignment so we can get the quarter panels on and then take the rest of the metal of this car, the trunk, the roof, everything. And then once all that's done, we'll go back through and then gap this car. Obviously, there's still going to be some areas the gap's tighter down there than it is up here. However, I got to say, I think I can maybe fix that with the quarter. If not, we'll cut it there and I'll show you how to gap the car later. But the door, we put brand new hinges on it. There's no play in them. Anytime you do something like this and you're aligning the door and messing with it, you're going to want to put either rebuild the hinges or buy brand new ones, because the worst thing to do is try to align something that keeps moving. You see, there's no play in this thing. So what we did, we worked that seam's about as good as we can. The bottom is really, really close. It's about as tight as we can. I might go through it when the car's on the rotisserie. I might gap that one and fix that one, make it a little bit tighter. I'll see how it is. I'm still undecided about that. We'll see how the rear works up. This body line, That's good right there. We might actually open it up a little bit there. It's actually a little bit tight down in that area. Up here, this area is going to be pulled up a little bit. See, the door's still got to be, I got to put the hinge on the door. But you can see we're close. This probably has to come up. We'll mess with it a little bit. The hood right there has got to come up a hair. So there's a couple imperfections. If you look down the side of this car, I mean, you could see the whole body lines line up. It needs a couple more things that need some work. But the main thing is this line, everything for the most part looks like a straight shot, and it's a good start to where we're looking at. We got the splash shields in there, test fitted underneath the wheel panel, just to go with that. We put the shaker hood on the car. You saw we installed the hood pins in it. We put the front cowl section on and aligned that. Right here you saw the gap was real big right there. We had to cut that and bring that corner in. And down here you saw with the fender, that's what was causing that gap, and that's how that was cut down. So we'll have to do a little more body work down there. Bumpers on. We're missing the trim on the grill, but I just want to make sure the grill fits. The trim, we know where it goes. And then over here, this side was too tight on the car, so we had to cut this and kind of push that in. We had to fix the body line here on the cowl and the fender. It's still just a rough body work. There's still some adjustment that's got to be done in this hood. But for the most part, I know the hood's going to fit. It's definitely fixable. Our body lines right here, in this center up here, and over here are all even. So, I mean, the hood, I think that's one of the hardest fitting things. It fits good. It's shimmed in. I mean, this is where we want to be. The grill is centered for what we got. It took a lot of working with. The bumper had to be pushed back a little bit. It was sticking out too much. I think this is a good look for the whole car. I'm sure we'll find a couple other things the more and more we go to it. If you look down, same thing on this side, the body lines, all the door gaps, splash shield fits good. The door gaps, everything. This corner is going to go down a little bit. And see right here, this perfect example up on top of this fender, we're going to take some TIG rod and we're actually going to have to build that gap out. See how it's just a little bit, I mean, that's where it's going to go. So we'll put some TIG rod and we'll build this curve to connect the two after we push this down. That should fix that. And then the door over here, again, same thing. There's no play in it. Opens and closes. You can lift up and down. Nothing. And then the only thing too is the same thing on this side. The quarter panels on this bottom, when I do the new quarters, will have to be pulled in. Just like I said, whoever did this, I guess they just slapped them on there. But the major work's done. This is a big step on this car. And we'll open the hood. I'll show you how that. The only thing I do have to do, if you look right in here, is the hood latch is sitting in the grill. I'm actually we had to lower the hood latch so much and kind of customize the front end. I'm actually gonna have to make the hood latch because it's supposed to stick up in that hole. But we'll see, we'll pull the hood pins. The hood opens and closes good. I mean, with the latch in the wrong spot. I gotta get the protector, the extra grab right there. But if you see the hood pins, how they're routed out, and correct me if I'm wrong, but how I think they're gonna go in, they're going to go in through the headlight, through the bottom. And if you look on the top, I'm pretty sure that's the guide hole for them. And on these e-body cars, you buy this bracket right here. And that's what we used to install the hood pins, and then we drilled it through the hood. They had the holes already there. I kind of moved it a little bit, and it's just trial and error. But yeah, so we're going to fix the hood latch. A couple other things. You see, though, the hood, I mean, it moves up and down real nice, and it closes real good. And put the hood pins back in. Like I said, we'll get our extra latch on it. They're adjusted pretty good. That about takes care of the front end on the 71. So thank you. Stay tuned. On this car, the next step, we're going to go through we're going to put the rear trunk on there. And I think we're going to do the quarters at that point. I still got to evaluate everything. But stick around. There'll be more to come on this car. And hope you enjoyed so far. Thank you.